Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this extraordinary event, I think, today. It's wonderful to have you all here and to be able to join in what I think has been a great celebration for 2 days in the company of two remarkable people. I think in your lifetime you'll get to meet a number of remarkable people if you're very, very lucky. And people who have changed the face of our art, who have changed the face of our culture, who have added indelibly to what we look at and see and experience on screens, television, and in our cultural life. The two people who have been so significant in that are with us today, Paula Wagner and Stephen Bochco. So we welcome them very, very warmly. Here's a little information, I think we've all read the bios, but I'll just do some highlights. That Paula is an alumni of CMU, which is so wonderful, and in acting, and is also a university trustee, and takes that role very seriously and advances the university wherever she is. I was out in LA a couple of times this year since I've been here, and she carries the flag for us in a wonderful, wonderful way. And by doing that, it enhances the university, it enhances you, it enhances the reputation of graduates, and it brings and attracts attention to us, and it also helps with funding and a whole lot of things. So we really thank her for that role as a trustee. Paula has had a remarkable career, and maybe we'll hear a bit of that this afternoon, but having started as an actor, she ends up in Los Angeles as one of the first women appointed to Creative Artist Agency as an agent, one of the first women to do that, which is, glass ceiling stuff, and it's very, very, very important that that's happened. She went on 13 years with Tom Cruise producing major features, including Mission Impossible 1, 2 and 3, and The Last Samurai. So we've just been upstairs watching a reel of a number of films that Paula's been involved with, and it's just utterly remarkable what you've done, and it's just a huge credit to you. Paula has been honoured as the first woman in Hollywood Icon Award. She served the first-time directors jury at the Venice Film Festival and served as co-chair of the Hollywood Film Festival for many years. She's currently focused on developing film and theatre projects, including some with recent graduates from CMU. So I'm sure we'll hear more of those things as the afternoon continues. Stephen is also an alum of CMU, and lovely to have him back after a little time. Stephen's been a commencement speaker at the university, and his groundbreaking television writing and producing credits include Hill Street Blues, LA Law, NYPD Blue, and they altered the television landscape, I think, forever. I mean, anyone who has seen them knows that they are the footprint by which people now tread in television land, and without Stephen's groundbreaking, imaginative work, we may not be where we are now. His awards include the Paddy Chayefsky Laurel Award for Television, 2 Writers Guild Awards, 4 Peabody Awards, and 4 NAACP Image Awards. In 1996, Stephen was inducted into the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Television Hall of Fame. Stephen's been awarded honorary doctorates from the American Film Institute, California Institute of the Arts, and Emerson College. So it's with great pleasure that I welcome both of you today. Don and I are going to share the duties of questions, and we hope to get to you pretty quickly because I think this is a great opportunity for you to meet and talk with and exchange ideas with two of the cultural leaders of our time. Maybe I'll just kick off the first question to each, which is something along the lines of, having been so successful in the film industry and television industries, how did the education that you had here and elsewhere put you in the position that you are today, that you're now here as two eminent people in the American cultural scene? What role did education play in that for both of you?
We're being so polite.
Well, for me, it was a much straighter path than it was for Paula. So it's easy for me and obviously truthful for me to say that the education I got here, both in terms of writing and theater in general, and being exposed to I think I've said it several times in some of our smaller sessions, that the best writing classes I had when I was here were my acting classes. I learned so much about character and storytelling, structure. My education as a writer was invaluable, but my world education, in terms of learning about a community of like-minded artists, was probably the singularly most important thing that I took away from my years here on campus. I grew up here, and I grew up here, notwithstanding how young I was, but I started my artistic journey here, and I went into a medium in the 1960s that was not considered an art medium. It was a medium that people who worked in it were embarrassed to admit that they worked in it, and people who watched it were a little embarrassed to say that they watched it. And I brought from my years here a sense of art to what I did. And it took 15 years, but I think we began to do work in television that we could, all of us, be proud of as art. And that all started from what I received here.
Paula.
I think some very broad concepts came from my education here, and I definitively look to the education I had at Carnegie Mellon in the drama department as being the foundation for my entire career, which is a very unusual career. The career path I have taken is almost as creative as the actual thing I've been doing. And I would say that the discipline that you learn is invaluable. Disciplined performers, directors, creators, writers, designers, believe it or not, it's a rare quality. And you have it because you are given that structure that is so important that you internalize. So I would say the discipline, the ideals, the classical training and background, believe it or not, even now, my training in the history of the theater has held me in good stead when I look to plays, which is an area that I'm working more in now. It's going back to the theater. My connections, I don't want to use the word I want to say my networking, the people, my friends. I made friends here that are my dearest and closest friends for life. I met Stephen Bochco here at Carnegie Mellon, and frankly, he was a very gracious professional when I knocked on his door. I don't know if you remember it, but I knocked on his door and said, "Hi, I'm an actress from Carnegie Mellon. Come on in." And many other people so the people that you're with right now are of vital importance to you in the future. You will help each other. The professors, the ambiance, and also the atmosphere that I wasn't battling the dynamics of being in New York or Los Angeles. I had Pittsburgh, and the city was quite different then, which allowed me to focus and to concentrate. And most importantly, I learned how to learn. So much of my education came after college, when I was thrown into the real world. But learning how to learn is a very important quality that I got from this school.
Fantastic. I bet this audience will want to know about the climate that we're all in now, and how things have changed. I teach a business of acting course, and as soon as, we say, well, this is true, pretty soon it's not true. And particularly for you, Stephen, the way that TV shows are getting on now must be tricky and changed in the past few years. I mean, you've got, since the writer's strike, I would think a big change has happened. The pilot season process is different. you're competing with the reality TV. What do you find that would be important for us to know about the changes now?
Technology changes, short-term trends change. Everybody's concerned about reality television, so am I. But I remember when news magazines populated 20 hours of programming a week, something like that, 18 hours of programming a week. I remember when game shows were all the rage. You know, things change, things come around again. The constant for you all and the constant for me is we provide content, and the way we provide content doesn't fundamentally change. As I say, technology sophisticates, makes certain things easier for us. There are more networks now than there used to be. You know, circumstances change. Maybe sometimes it's harder to break through. You know, their audiences have options for entertainment that they didn't have 20, 25 years ago. So we all have to sort of compete with all those options. But we're artists, you know, and our fundamental chore as artists is to provide rich, meaningful content for whatever the outlet du jour is. So, you know, things do change, but it's easy to stay focused.
You're both gatekeepers on an area that most people in this room want to be part of. What do you look for when somebody comes and knocks on that door of yours? And these are young people straight out of here, and they've got aspirations to be in your world. What do you look for? What are the qualities that you want presented as they step through the door?
I look for and I meet actors, writers, directors, designers, believe it or not, when I'm putting a film together. I look for an underlying commitment to your purpose, to the thing that you are doing. And that shows by your attitude, that you believe in yourself and your craft or your art or whatever you want to call it, your project, that you are a believer and that you are committed. I look for people who have ideas of their own, who are creative, who are highly professional, well-trained. I always look at a resume and go, theater. I want to meet that person. Or not just anybody that's been in theater anywhere, anytime, but a trained theatrical person who has some background. It's, as they say from an actor's standpoint, it's in the eyes. It's in the way you carry yourself. And that somehow your sense of purpose about your art and your craft and the work that you do transcends any one moment. The ability to connect with the person you're dealing with. Someone walks in a room and they connect with me. They somehow know what I need and can help me solve my problem, whether it's a casting problem, or I need a director, or I'm looking for a writer. You are able to channel your energies, yourself, your impulses, your thoughts into that moment and somehow fulfill what my problem is as the producer, if you will, or the studio or the agent or whatever it is. You're able to fulfill my need at that moment. I need to cast this part. I need to get a writer. And you carry yourself with authenticity, with dignity, with commitment, and with a purpose. And I hope that's not too general, but that is really what I look for in someone. And it's just something you have and you develop.
Because there's a balance between chutzpah and genuine belief in yourself, isn't there?
Yes.
And an artist to survive, I think, has to ultimately have convinced themselves that they are an artist and have something very worthy to put forward. Pushing that forward is a very fine balance for a young artist coming out of here. So, how much chutzpah do you need, and how much do you like?
Well, not too much. I think a person, your personhood, as it were, in addition to your creative artist being, but that you are a human being, and you let that show. I like people who aren't afraid to show a certain vulnerability, but who also have a tough approach to life, professionally. So, yeah, a little bit of chutzpah never hurt.
Chutzpah being defined, as I remember it, by the kid who murders his mother and father and pleads for mercy from the court on the grounds that he's an orphan.
That's it.
You know.
He's a writer. He's a great writer.
Speaking of that, what about material? I mean, you started to talk about crossover ideas for material that you might want to produce. What speaks to you in that way? You know, what do you want to work on?
I'll speak things that movie ideas I'd said earlier to my class can come from any place. Look at Hollywood now. Games. Barbie, the movie. Scrabble, the movie. Yes, they are making Monopoly, the movie. Anywhere you can get an idea, as long as it resonates and somehow has some cultural resonance of some kind. Even the most, audacious, big Hollywood movies that work have some cultural resonance. And whether it's a great novel, a play, a song, a book, a TV show, you look everywhere, an article in the newspaper. Use life as your inspiration for your ideas. And then you figure out what format, whether maybe it's something that goes to television or film or theater, you mold the idea to how it's done, to the platform that it's released upon. And do you have anything to...
Well...
Yours is a little different.
Well, yeah, my process is a lot different. Because I generate... I live in a pretty small room, and I tend to generate my own stuff. So I always start there. But what I look for is help, and it goes to something we've all talked about over the last 2 days in one way or another, which is collaboration. I learned very early in my career that I'm not constitutionally capable of being a one-man band, and two, it's not productive. In the context of the work that I do, collaboration is everything. So I look for voices. I look for voices that fill out the chorus, and that can be writers, actors, directors, producers, designers. And as I've said in our smaller groups over the last few days, every one of you is poised to be a consummate professional because you're getting the best training available, I think, anywhere in America, really. And so that's the small look at it. The bigger picture is ditto what she said, just about how one presents. I mean, what you want to always do is get in the door. you don't want the person at the door saying, no, thank you, no. Let's call me another time. Then you've done something wrong. So all of those terrific words of wisdom about presenting oneself in a professional way, in a focused way, is very important. Packaging does have its place in the entirety of all the things you learn here.
What about making the smooth transition from the school into the profession? Because these people are all working next to each other, sitting out here in the audience, might be the next best screenwriter, they might be the next playwright, the next best Academy Award-winning actor. What about putting together teams while they're in this sort of student setting? You're about to work with some people, Paula, out in LA, who are graduates from here, and you're developing work with them. Would you like to just explain a bit about that and what the advantage is of trying to find collaborations while you're in an academy like this that may go on and bear fruit later?
Well, a lot of filmmakers and production companies and acting companies start at the university level. When I was at Carnegie, and this will date me, I'm going to just put it out there, Godspell was created. I'm sure you all have seen or talked to Stephen Schwartz, who was here. You were kind of on the cusp at that time, and I think you were leaving or here. So collaboration is a fantastic thing. You are all talented people. You all have common interests, common grounds in which to communicate. And it's really important that you appreciate your training, your background, the fact that you were so highly and selectively brought into this school. It's very competitive out there, and your training is top-notch, bar none. So look to your left and right and find ways to collaborate. I think it's potentially very exciting. You have a mission and you have a responsibility to bring us the future, because we are sitting here on the threshold. I'm sitting here in the movie business going, along with all my colleagues in the movie business going, whoa, wait a second. Everything is in transition. Nothing is what it was 2 years ago. The DVD market is forever changed. The screen sizes have changed. Technology has exploded. The economic crisis has certainly affected Hollywood. Hollywood is no longer a little insular, a little town in California where you go and get discovered by sitting on a bar stool. Hollywood is a huge business, huge international imprint made by Hollywood. Massive media conglomerates now own and control every single studio, so that you're not just talking about Universal Pictures. You're talking about General Electric, NBC, Universal Pictures. So you're talking about Sony owning a movie company, which is now called Sony. So it's a different world. You have a big corporate world out there looking at you, confronting you. So your job is to be the architects of change creatively. Bring us the new ideas. I like that. I'm embracing of that. Bring us the combining of the technology and theater, and bring us all those things that you can find ways to utilize the internet. Nobody really knows how to manipulate or handle or what its position is going to be. You be the ones to utilize it. And ultimately, the thing that counts the most is what it is you do, your content. But how you use your content requires now as much thought, preparation, and handling as that thing you do. Your career is, in a way, your career. You understand what I mean?
Can we go a little bit more on this transition? Because this is the greenhouse where people are coming to learn about art and technique, and then there's going to be this step that one leaves the greenhouse and starts to work. So, what would you suggest in the way of networking or preparation that people get ready to make this transition?
God, I wish there was a formula I could give you for that. Life would be so much easier, wouldn't it? And there isn't. All the things that Paula has mentioned, all the things I've mentioned, don't really necessarily get you in the door right away. You do have to be aggressive. You do have to pursue every conceivable edge you can find. However annoying it may be at any given moment in time, you have to call her, you have to call me, you have to call John. You have to find that little crack. And you're water. You have to find that little crack that lets you flow downstream. If you don't, you'll wind up doing something else in life, which, for whatever it's worth, is not terrible. So many people that I went to school with, so many people that Paula went to school with, are hugely successful in fields that may not necessarily have been suggested by their course of study here at Tech, but which uniquely informed them and prepared them for other things. And those are opportunities that you may not see today, but the world will present you with as you move on in life. But in terms of our business, everybody has a different story to tell, which is one of the reasons why it's so much fun. My story, I've never heard my story before. I never heard Paula's story before. 10 years from now, those of you who stay the course will have wonderful, amazing, surprising stories to tell. And I suppose the only piece of advice is be prepared for the unexpected so that you can take advantage, with all the wonderful training that you have, of those moments in time that will present themselves for you to take advantage of.
Very well said.
Because there's a similarity between your careers in a certain sense that you were saying yesterday that you felt that you'd done a very long apprenticeship for 10 years or 12 years before you decided that you would break out and make your own work away from a company. Paula, you've changed from an acting career through an agency to running a major studio. That's a long time, isn't it, that a career unfolds and opportunities appear, being ready for the opportunity, witnessing the opportunity, sensing an opportunity. Did you know these things were coming, or did either of you know that opportunity was around the corner?
When I was sitting right in one of those, actually it wasn't here, it was over at Kresge, sitting in the main stage theater, and I walked on it last night and remembered that moment when I played Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, or Cressida in Troilus and Cressida, or when we did a production directed by Paul Draper of combining words. This was very avant-garde at that time. Words of T.S. Eliot and E.E. Cummings, combined with Paul Draper was a noted dancer, so we tap danced to the words of the great poets, and the music was Jim Morrison and the Doors. That was my college education. And I was sitting here, and I didn't have a clue, a dream, a thought that one day I would go from being a Shakespearean actress at the Yale Rep to an agent in Hollywood. Crazy kind of transformation to a production company at Paramount Pictures to a studio, running a studio to an independent producer. That journey was a very unusual journey, and nothing that occurred specifically in my education really prepared me for that. But the basic tools that I spoke of earlier were the things, the stamina, the fortitude, the I'm not going to give up, I'm going to do something, I'm going to, I'm going to be in this business, and I'm going to find my way, and I'm going to be creative, and I'm going to play by the rules until I've played by them so well I can break them. And take a lot of risks. And I found things along the way that meant something to me, like the women's movement. To be very honest, I became very active in the late 70s because I felt actresses needed to be looked at differently, and the roles needed to be different, and there had to be some way to express the depth and the strength of who actresses, then they were called actresses, were. And so I created a piece of theater. And I brought on people. I produced it, essentially. So I did the very thing I became. I started, because I was so dissatisfied with all the agents, I basically became my own agent. I learned about contracts. I took the law boards and learned all about law and reading contracts and analyzing them. I studied who the agents were, who the casting directors were. I wanted to know more about the audition process. I knew nothing about the business when I got out of Carnegie Mellon. And nor should I have become the business person that I am now. So there are skills that you pick up, but the tools to learn those skills you learn here. And you have to work very hard, but work effectively as well at your craft and your career. You have to have talent, of course, that is a given. And you got to have luck, but you have to know what luck is, how to turn it to your advantage, how to discover it, pull it from the air. And you have to have a real business sense for yourself. You have to be your own business person, no matter how great an artist you are in this climate, in this world, because it all is the business of entertainment. So you put all those things together and you go on this journey, and do not be afraid to change direction. As much as you are committed to the thing you are doing, don't be afraid to make a change if that change presents itself to you and is a good change and a positive change and something that allows you a new direction. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you have any general advice? This might be a very specific person-to-person sort of question, but about where it's smart for people to start, given their talents, given their interest. I mean, we naturally think about either New York or Los Angeles, and there are more choices than that. But do you have any particular preference or ideas or guidance about where it would be good to start, or does it matter?
Well, start by getting a job, any job, because you got to pay your rent and your electric bills and all that stuff. Networking, contacts, you got to work as hard at getting a job as at doing a job. Maybe even harder. I always felt that doing the job, well, that's what I was trained for. Nobody trains for getting the job. I mean, that's a very idiosyncratic process that we all go through. But Paula's right when she says that, Paula's got a real big brain and clearly is somebody who needs to be in control of her environment, which is a great thing, because she just somehow figured out a way to learn all the stuff she didn't know about the business so that she could maximize her chances. So in the absence of actually having a job, doing what you love to do and are trained to do, there are so many ancillary parts of the business that you can acquaint yourself with. So you work hard at preparing so that, I've said this before, I'm boring the shit out of myself, but...
Well, not anybody else.
You know, so that when that door just cracks a little bit, you've got your ducks in a row. You're ready to go. You've educated yourself about all kinds of things. I mean, you wouldn't dream of going to have an interview with somebody, Paula Wagner, Stephen Bochco, John Wells, or some casting director or whatever, without doing a little homework about who that person is, what they've done in the past, what are their credentials, you know. So you prepare yourself so that you can walk in a door and not only present your credentials, but present your personality. You know, you're capable of having a conversation. You're capable of communicating an idea. And, you know, I think probably the most important part of an interview is arguably the first 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like the way you watch television. You know, you're going like this, and you're looking for something that'll get your thumb off the trigger. And I always created shows, pilot episodes, with the idea that I had to get you to pause for like 3 minutes. If I could get you to not pull the trigger on me for 3 minutes, I got you. You know, I think it's the same in an interview. People have short attention spans. They've got more things to do in a day than they have time for. Be prepared, you know. I mean, there's no formula for it, as you know, but...
Can I ask both of you, what makes a good collaborator? I mean, Paula, you've worked with Tom Cruise, first as his agent for 10 years, and then as a co-producer on a whole series. What makes him a great collaborator to you?
I think a collaboration is about consensus, where there is an agreement that's made between 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, 50 people, thousands of people, where there is the goal is a similar goal, the long-term goal. We're going to make a great movie. How are we going to get there? There are agreements along the way. Good collaboration is understanding what one person does and allowing for another person to do what it is they do. Movies are traditionally supposed to be, they aren't always, a collaborative art form. You start with an idea, it becomes a screenplay, your writer comes aboard, let's say the producer's putting it together, then the director comes aboard and elaborates upon that, and your actors come in. And my association with Tom over the years, first as an agent and then producing partners, and the studio was always about mutual goals in filmmaking and the ability of both of us to do very different things. I was not the actor, but I was the kind of architect of the whole process, the project, the producer, if you will, and balance. It's a sense of balance. And if you can't collaborate with someone, then you shouldn't be working with that person. I would always say, as a producer, my job as a producer is to help the director fulfill his or her vision of the film they're going to make. Now, that can translate into theater or whatever else. Now, if I don't believe in the director's vision, I won't work with the director, because I don't want... often, you know, look, no collaboration is running on two or one track, absolutely no disagreement. As a matter of fact, if you say to someone in my business, how's the film going? And they say, oh, it's beautiful. We finish on time, and everybody smiles, and we've had no problems. And it's just great. We're under budget. We're going to even come in early. You know, we're going to finish our shoot early, and everyone's happy all the time. And I talked to somebody like that, and that film came out. It was the biggest disaster ever because there was no friction. That's the artistic process, friction and disagreement and arguing and figuring out and changing things. You can never change the process. That's why business and finance scratch their head when they look at the arts and try to figure it out, and sometimes want to make it into the shoe business, when in fact it can't be. It's art. You are artists. You are creative people with creative thoughts. So the collaborative process can be a headbutting, and it can be any number of dynamics, as long as the group of people that come together to make art, whatever it is, that help it to become commerce or need commerce to support the art, that process leads to something. It's 1 + 1 is 3 in this world. Sorry to tell you that, but just really quickly going back over what do you do when you get out of school. In my business, knowledge and information are power. You have the internet. Learn everything you can learn about everybody, about every studio making movies. There aren't many. About the players, about the rules of the game board. The more you know, the more confident you become, the sharper you are, the more I want to sit and talk to you. If you walk in my office and you know what you're talking about, and I can say to you, who's the chairman of Sony Pictures? And you start talking about, what's going on with GE and Comcast coming in and what percent they're going to buy. Even if you're an actor, I like that. You should know your business. May I give you an anecdote, just a little anecdote? A young man got out of college and he wants to be a film producer, and he came to me to apply for a job as an assistant. And I will promote people. They start as an assistant, I will bring them along, and then some of the people that have started my assistants have become producers. He came in, very smart, sharp, he knew all about me, he had it all down. He had worked at CAA for a while, so he had some agency skills. And I said, let's talk about the studios because I need you to have knowledge. Who runs Universal? Who's the chair of Universal? Of course, it's always changing, but, or who's this, or what's that? He didn't know. And I said, thank you very much. You're a very bright, nice young man. I can't use you're not experienced enough. You don't know these people. So I came back from Christmas vacation. There was a plastic bag and a letter on my desk. And the letter said, I really want this job. I'm shortcutting it. I really want this job. I think I could bring a lot to the job for you. I know what you need in terms of handling phones and this and that. The one area that I obviously was not as educated on were the players at the various studios. So I spent my Christmas vacation learning and studying them. I did flashcards for myself. Here's the cards. I'd like to come in, and would you quiz me? He sent me cards like pink was Fox. And every position, like 100 employees, at every position he'd memorized all of them. What they did, what their titles were, where their offices was, everything. And that was like pink cards. On one side was the position and the description, and the other was the name. And then Universal and all the studios. So I said, okay, let's see what this... I call him in. Man, he knew everything. I said, okay, Paramount Pictures, co-chair, Brad Gray. He's right, great. He knew everything. I gave him the job. Just so you can apply that metaphor, if you will, to what all of these businesses, I think all of the businesses like that kind of ingenuity.
We might move to some questions, but if I could just ask Stephen on that same line, you've had actors and you've made fortunes for them. What keeps an actor fresh for you, and what's the relationship, the collaboration for somebody who's in a long-running series? You stick with people for what reasons?
They don't insult my mother, you know, that, that always helps. You know, when I left here, I left with an invisible network of ensemble players. And every opportunity in my career as it progressed that I got, I reached out to my actor friends from Carnegie. And we worked together all the time. And, you know, it's such a subjective process, and I love them all, but some of them, you know, George Orwell in Animal Farm said all animals are equal and some animals are more equal. And not to equate actors with animals, you guys, but, you know, I just connected with some actors differently and more intimately than I did with others. And over the years, we just kept orbiting each other. And when I finally got in a position where I could really do something with this core group of actors and writers and, you know, and directors, I did. I mean, Hill Street Blues was Charlie Hayde, Bruce Weitz, Barbara Bosson, Mark Frost came and was a writer with us. I'm probably leaving out a whole bunch of folks, you know, from Carnegie. I would work
Michael
with
Tucker?
Michael Tucker. Oh my God, Mikey is my best friend. Thank you. I would work with them all tomorrow if I could. You know, it just has to do with shared vision. You know, when you talk about how do you collaborate, there's an interesting, and I'll make this quick. There's an interesting counterintuitive thing about collaboration, because most of us didn't go into this business to be, you know, in the third row of the chorus. Most of us, if not all of us, have a fantasy about being a star. I didn't become a star until I learned how to collaborate. And that's the counterintuitive part of it. That it's the ability to collaborate with your friends, your peers, your colleagues that creates an environment in which the sum is greater than its parts. And in that environment, people become stars as an unintended consequence. You know, stardom is an accident. All the rest of it is deliberate.